What is up, everybody? And today is a Titan build that I'm actually really excited about, even as a Warlock main. With this build, we're going to have ramping up damage on our primary weapon, along with the ability to stun every champion, break any shield, and just have a good time. Well, some of that is not quite yet. This build at the moment is pretty solid, but it does get better in December 7th to be exact. I think they haven't announced the buff to arbalest, but we know what it is and that it's coming soon. So basically, this build is taking advantage of this year's Festival of Lost weapon, Jurassic Green. If you haven't gotten one, by the time this video's out, you have a few more days or like a week to go grab it, so I highly suggest you do that. It's actually pretty solid. It's a rapid fire frame pulse rifle. It's solar, which is why I wanted it for this. Has some interesting rolls. It's the only rapid fire pulse rifle with rangefinder. That's a great perk for this. I think there's tunnel vision and heating up, both great perks. Subsistence also good. Your damage perks, I picked frenzy for reasons that we'll get into in a little bit. Basically, I didn't need a massive damage buff, and it being on there all the time was really helpful. And then there's also like Rampage and Multi-Kill Clip, which are also really good perks, but you don't really need them as much. So the reason we're using Jurassic Green specifically is, one, because we have unstoppable pulse rifles here in Season of the Lost, and Path of the Burning Steps, the exotic Titan leg armor, which gives you a damage buff whenever you are affected by stasis or get solar final blows. Now, not all activities have stasis enemies. It's basically Hallowed Lair and then the seasonal activities this season. So maybe next season it'll get better, or even in the dungeon in the 30th anniversary event. So we don't know that yet, but that's not where this build ends. You remember when I said it could stop any champion? Well, we have our sword. Of course, Crown Splitter, one of the best swords in the game. Only usable on Titans, aggressive frame, you slam it down. Plus, we have Overload Sword. So, on your arms, you need Overload Sword and Unstoppable Pulse. Now, you're probably thinking, well, okay, that's 2 champion mods, where's the third? Well, if you didn't know already, arbalest is supposed to get anti-barrier, and I don't think they've given the date yet, but being that we know what it is and that it's coming this season, best guess is December 7th, arbalest is getting anti-barrier. So you can stun anti-barrier champs, you can stun unstoppable champs, and overload champs with this build. Not only that, arbalest might be the best thing for anti-barriers when that comes in, because it does have disruption break, which connects to more damage when they break shields. But barriers count as shields, and for match game it's also great because it just doesn't care about what type the shield is, it's gonna imitate it. But there's still more to this build that I'm about to get into. Now that we've gone over our weapons and our champion mods, let's just dive more into this Jurassic Green for a second. I chose Frenzy specifically because I didn't need to worry about the damage buff too much. Of course, you could just slap a minor spec on it and that'll help you a lot with ads. But to get even better, we have Firewalker, or Path of the Burning Steps, which does stack with the more solar kills you get, so your grenades help, and just shooting things with your gun helps. But we're using what might be the best combat style mod for weapon damage, Elemental Armaments with Font of Might. Font of Might increases the damage of weapons matching your subclass. So we're running Sunbreaker with Jurassic Green, a solar weapon. So we get the solar weapon damage buff on Jurassic Green, which ups its damage, letting it shred through ads faster. Frenzy is about a 10% damage buff, plus Phantom Might's 20, I believe, and then Firewalker's also another additional damage buff on top of that, and Stasis doesn't affect us as much when that does come into play. So This also is kind of viable in PvP. Rapid fire pulses are just good. This is the only one with rangefinder, but firewalker proccing in PvP just isn't as common. It's not every kill, it's like every other kill, and then when stasis affects you. But back to PvE, other mods you want to consider, of course, Well of Ordnance and Elemental Ordnance, so that your grenades can spawn solar wells, and solar wells give you more grenade energy. That's great. Now, also, something you might want to consider grabbing is, of course, in your class item slot, you need to determine whether you would prefer to have your Withering Heat, because you are running a solar subclass, so making champions take more damage when they're getting hit by solar abilities is great, especially on Sunspot Titan, because it's just always right there. Or they're being burned and getting hit constantly, giving the debuff constantly. But you could also do particle deconstruction. It works with arbalest, so that's kind of where you're between on that. If you have a team with you and one of them's running a Cartesian, they should be running it, or a Vex Mythic class, of course. So it just kind of depends who's running what, but I personally think Withering Heat is a little bit better for this build, being that arbalest is not great at applying particle deconstruction. So overall, the mods you need are Unstoppable Pulse, Overload Sword, with, I personally prefer Withering Heat, and then you grab Well of Ordnance, Elemental Ordnance, Elemental Armaments, and Font of Might. Pair that with Arbalest, Jurassic Green, Crown Splitter, and Path of the Burning Steps, and you've got a great build, especially on sunspots. Now, in a future season, this might get way better once Solar gets reworked, but it just depends on what artifact mods are in and all that. But this build at the moment's really good, but it's only going to get better December 7th. Check it out, especially after that. And I think I'll do a follow-up video after December 7th to kind of check in on this build and how it's doing. I think it should be really good, so I hope it doesn't disappoint. And that's about it for this video. This build has a lot of moving pieces, but there's a lot of freedom in your mods. Of course, linear and fusion scavenger is always great to have when you have either of those weapons. You could do a sword scavenger, it just really doesn't matter, but every item here has its purpose. You can go through ads and majors with your Jurassic Green just fine. Arbalest handles a little bit of tankier enemies from farther away and snipers. Of course, Crown Splitter is great for champions. You stun them with whatever weapon and then go in on them with Crown Splitter, or for DPS on close range enemies. So everything has a purpose here, and everything just does it really well. I do really like this build, and I hope that you like it too. And I'll see you next time in the next video. But before I go, please hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, like this video, comment down below. Of course, I shouldn't forget that I also have a Twitch and a Twitter that you can go follow. They should be in the pinned comment down below. Also, I have a Discord. That server link should be down below in the comment that I have there. So, yeah, please go check all that out. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you have fun, and see you next time.